Good morning, everybody. So I'm out on a short ride around the beautiful villages near where I live, and I'm going to have a quick chat with you about a challenge I've had all of my life since I've been riding motorcycles and ways to overcome it. So I hope you'll find it interesting. Morning, everybody. Just having a short ride out this morning, one of our beautiful local villages. I wanted to talk to you about a challenge that I've had ever since I've been riding motorbikes, and that is I'm a bit vertically challenged. So I've ridden a lot of bikes that are a lot taller than the F650, Enduros for example, but they've been much lighter and narrower in the saddle, and also I was a lot younger. So I started thinking about what could I do to kind of give me the opportunity to actually get my feet on the floor rather than just on tippy toes. So I'm on the centre stand now, but typically with the stock saddle I'm kind of like this, and that's not really very good, especially if you're off camber. If this is off camber, then it could be a real problem, especially if you're trying to move the bike around and turn it around in a confined space. So what are your options? Well, there are two basically. You can modify the suspension, or you can modify the saddle. Some modern bikes like the R1300 GS for example has got some really cool stuff whereby not only can you order a smaller, shorter saddle like other BMW bikes for example, but also it has this kind of very clever adaptive suspension whereby when you come to a stop the bike kind of sits down, but I don't really run to that kind of budget, so I had to be a bit more creative. When people talk about modifying the suspension, they're normally talking about using these things. These are lowering links, sometimes called dog bones, and in this case these are aftermarket lowering links which are designed, if they're fitted to the F650, these are longer than standard, and because of the suspension geometry, which I'll show you in this diagram, the longer the dog bone, the longer the linkage is, the lower the bike will sit at the back, which is great. These ones lower the bike by 1 inch, which is great. However, there are some cons to this approach. One is that if you use these suspension arms, you lower the rear of the bike suspension, but it doesn't change anything on the front suspension, so the geometry of the suspension changes. What will happen is because the bike's lower at the back, the front stays the same, so the bike kind of sits back, and that changes the steering angle, the rake of the steering compared to the ground, and that can dramatically sometimes change the handling of the bike. When we use lowering links and we lower the rear suspension, what some people do to get around the fact we've altered the steering geometry is they will lower the forks in the triple clamps, and that's something to be done very carefully, because again it can really dramatically change the bike's handling. So it's not something I chose to do. One of the other things that happens is, of course, is that because the bike's lower, there's a good chance that you won't be able to use the centre stand anymore. The bike will be so much lower that this stand will be will hit the ground too fast, and you'll have to lift the bike up too high to get it on the centre stand. So that's a big deal. A lot of people that do this mod have to take the centre stand off, and it doesn't stop there. The third thing that can happen is because the rear of the bike is lower, the side stand becomes too long for the bike. That can make things really precarious when you put the bike on its side stand, and it can fall over if you're not careful. What some people do is they'll take the side stand off and have it modified by cutting a section out of it and then re-welding it. You've got to do that very, very carefully. As you can imagine, there's an enormous amount of strain on the side stand, and unless that job is done really well, there's a risk that the side stand will snap. So that's option A for making things a bit easier if you are short in the leg. By the way, I have an inseam of 29 inches. It's not impossible to ride the bike with a standard saddle and the standard suspension. I did it for many years, and actually before I had an ST a long time ago, I had a Funduro, which is taller. But I just wanted to be a little bit more comfortable. The other thing you can do, of course, is replace the saddle or change the saddle. It's not just a case of taking foam out of the saddle though. You also have to think about replacing some of that foam with denser foam. Otherwise you run the risk of hitting the seat base when you sit on the bike, and that can be extremely uncomfortable. Another thing you can do is you can try and reduce the width of the saddle, especially around here, and that makes it a lot easier to get your feet down if you're a bit short in the leg. You can't do it on all saddles. So this saddle is not a standard BMW 650 saddle, it's one I made, and that's going to be the subject of my next video. So this has just been a short video to talk to you about what can you do if you're a bit vertically challenged. You've got the suspension modifications that you can do with lowering links, but there are things you need to consider. So anyway, as usual, I hope you found this short video interesting. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep riding, drink tea, stay safe. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.